I just want to mention again that in doing these little chats, I am relying on material that has been conveyed to me by Shabaka. I talked about him earlier and how he came through to me. And then also I have a couple of other collaborators as well. So that I wouldn't like to be seen as coming across in any sort of a dogmatic way that this is the absolute truth or so on, because this was never the way with Shabaka or with the others. Always a total respect for each person's truth, and that each person can find their own truth in their own way. But in the sharing, that hopefully that for people that find some things in them that they will relate to, and that they will feel, well, this is what I believe, or what I'd like to believe, or so on. And one of them, too, that he came out quite a bit, the whole thing of awareness and non-awareness. And awareness in that sense is, I suppose, a total coming to knowing and accepting what we are as part of the whole divine essence. That it brings in, you know, as the, if you like, the way that we are not something separate from this divine essence, that it's something that's in us, that gives us our life and our force. And that's the huge thing. It's not an intellectual thing. It's feeling like, well, it is intellectual as well in a way, but the intellectual part of it is no use of itself unless we feel it, and let the feeling take over that we are all part of that. And that is, the more that we come to that and that we have that feeling, then that raises our whole awareness level of who and what we are and our place in the whole scheme of things. And it brings up the thing of what we call good and evil. Now, in Shabaka's terms, these are non-events, if you like. There's no such things as good or evil in the way that commonly accepted. He would describe it more as awareness and non-awareness. The idea of that is that, you see, that if we are all part of whatever the divine essence, whatever we call it is, then there can be no such thing as evil in the long term. That's hard for people to believe, in the sense that you can see all these awful things going on, all these atrocities being committed, all the man's inhumanity to man, and all through the centuries, and murders and so on, and unspeakable cruelties going on. And these things, of course, they are evil in that sense. They're certainly not promoting harmony in the sense of what I was talking about in the last session. But the people who are doing them, or carrying out all these awful acts, they too are part of that divine essence. You see, nothing can be separate from it. And that's the whole point of it, like that it is all embracing, all comprehensive. And if we accept that, and if we can accept that, then of course nobody can be outside of it. So there's no question of condemning anybody, or indeed, like we talked about in the last session, the whole business of burning at the stake and condemning people to the eternal hellfire and so on. So whatever it is that again comes into, I suppose, the whole business of reincarnation and repeated lives like that, say that I'm involved in the most horrific act of cruelty all my life, and then I pass on, and I find that I have to come to terms with that in some way, and then that I have to find a way of making retribution. You see, there is a story told in one of the books, like come to later, about a man who was involved in, not through his own fault initially, that he was dragooned into, he was a doctor, he was dragooned into the Nazi developments and selecting people to be sent for work who were fit for work, and the others, of course, were sent to the gas chambers. And he didn't know that for a while. He tried to get out of it, but then he found that he couldn't. He was forced into continuing, and eventually, when he learned of all that had happened, he committed suicide. And then he was felt so guilty that he isolated himself completely, and it took ages and ages for his guides and others to get through to him, to help him to come to terms with it, and then perhaps later on to see how he could in some way make up for it. So that this would be the common thing, you see, that we can't ultimately deny what it is that we are. And that can never die or go away. And the challenge for us is how to come to terms with that and to find our way to it. And even though, like even in our own lifetimes, no matter how it is, we look back at our lifetimes, and there will be many things that we regret or we'd like to have done differently. But now they're gone and over, and we come to terms with them and say we don't want to be like that again, and come to forgive ourselves for them eventually. So that if we can see the world in those terms then of awareness and non-awareness, and the awareness being what we would have called good perhaps, but in an expanded way, and the non-awareness being what we would have called evil, but also seeing it in its overall comprehensiveness as the acts that are carried out by people who are temporarily totally unaware of their own true natures and what they are, and this challenge is for them ultimately to get to that. So obviously in Shabaka's world then there are no such things as hell or Satan or devils or so on. There are just those who are living in states of unawareness as opposed to awareness. And that's the way that it has been put to me, and indeed a way that I find, I must say that very hopeful that nobody will be lost. And so thank you very much for listening.